Brookside once shook British television with its stories of love, infidelity, violence, and family tragedy. Yet behind the spotlight, the cast themselves also endured real-life twists, far more dramatic than fiction. Some lost everything to broken marriages, some fell to illness, and others struggled to rise again after deep pain. More than 40 years have passed, and their changes will surely leave you shocked and almost unable to believe. Dean Sullivan as Jimmy Corkhill. Dean Sullivan was born on June 7, 1955, in Liverpool. When he was just 31 years old, he played Jimmy Corkhill, a complex, drug-addicted character who delivered shocking scenes and became the dramatic soul of Brookside in 1986. This role made Sullivan one of the most recognizable faces in the history of the series and earned him a Lifetime Achievement Award at the British Soap Awards in 2003. But away from the screen, Sullivan carried an emptiness that could never be filled. He never married and lived quietly in loneliness in Liverpool. The shadow of Jimmy Corkhill often felt like a heavy reminder, blurring the line between empathy and the painful overlap of real life and fiction. When the glory of Brookside faded, he sank into financial troubles, forced to take on small roles on television and stage just to make ends meet. It wasn't only loneliness that weighed on him. Sullivan also battled prostate cancer in silence from 2018. He kept it secret for years, only going public in August 2023 to urge men to take their health seriously. But just as people began to admire his courage, the illness had already reached a late stage, draining his strength day by day. On November 29, 2023, Dean Sullivan passed away in Birkenhead at the age of 68. The cause was the ruthless prostate cancer that claimed his life. At that time, his net worth was estimated at £757,000, mostly from his long years on Brookside and later stage work. He left the remainder to his sister after covering funeral costs and debts, closing the life of an artist who lived fully but also with profound loneliness. Sue Johnston as Sheila Grant. Sue Johnston was born on December 7, 1943, in Warrington. At the age of 39, she took on the role of Sheila Grant, a working-class mother, both strong and vulnerable, bringing audiences raw and authentic stories of ordinary families in Brookside from its very first episode in 1982. This role made her one of the series' most central figures and cemented her as one of the most influential female characters in British television. However, her personal life was also scarred with pain. Johnston's first marriage collapsed after only a few years, compounded by the devastating loss of a miscarriage at age 24. These experiences left deep wounds, leading her to choose long-term singlehood and devote herself entirely to her career rather than attempt to build another family. At the same time, Johnston had to confront her own health struggles. She was a heavy smoker throughout the 1980s, which severely weakened her body and forced her to make the difficult decision to quit in order to save her life. Later, she even wove this experience into her performance, allowing audiences to feel the raw and painful realism in Sheila Grant. By 2025, Sue Johnston is 82 years old. She continues to appear in television projects such as The Royal Family and Downton Abbey, and she has even been nominated for a BAFTA for her role in True Love. With an estimated net worth of about £1 million, built from acting and advertising contracts, she stands not only as an accomplished actress, but also as a powerful source of inspiration for older women. Vince Earl as Ron Dixon. Vince Earl was born on June 11, 1944, in Liverpool. From 1990, he appeared in Brookside as Ron Dixon, a hot-tempered father constantly caught in family tragedies and fierce conflicts, taking on the role at age 46. The character of Ron not only became one of the dramatic pillars of the show, but also solidified Earl's name, making him one of the most familiar and long-lasting faces for audiences. Yet even before the stage lights dimmed, Earl had to face an irreplaceable loss. In 1998, right in the middle of filming Brookside, Earl's first wife died of heart disease. He was forced to keep working, hiding his tears to finish his scenes, while inside he was broken, lonely, and adrift. Years later, he admitted that this was the harshest trial of his life, because he no longer had a shoulder to lean on after each day of embodying Ron Dixon on screen. It wasn't only his marriage that brought heartbreak. His health also betrayed him. In 2005, a serious car accident left Earl with spinal injuries. The aftermath confined him to bed and forced him through 2 years of agonizing physical therapy. During that time, he often doubted whether he could ever return to the stage or whether he would remain imprisoned in a frail, powerless body forever. But through sheer resilience, Vince Earl overcame it. By 2025, at 81 years old, he is still living in Liverpool, occasionally appearing at cast reunions and making guest appearances on Hollyoaks. He also maintains a bond with fans through comedy and a handful of small projects. Earl's net worth is estimated at about £800,000, accumulated from thousands of television episodes and years of relentless work in comedy theater. John Boht as Heather Havisham. John Boht was born on March 6, 1932, in Bebington, Cheshire. When she was 52 years old, she played Heather Havisham in Brookside in 1983, a strong, independent woman who brought depth and humanity to the show's stories of family and society. Her character became a vital voice for women in the series, securing Boht's lasting impression on the public during her 6 years on the show. Behind her shining career, however, was a pain she carried for life. In 1975, Boht's eldest son died in a tragic car accident. The loss carved deeply into her soul, making every mother role she played on screen feel like reopening that wound. She later went through 2 marriages, including one with stage manager Alfred Molina, which also ended in divorce, leaving her with a long-lasting emptiness. As she entered old age, illness struck hard. Boht battled Alzheimer's disease, a condition that gradually shattered her memory. Her family cared for her daily in a small home in South London, where a once vibrant artist was reduced to fleeting moments of clarity amid confusion and forgetfulness. Jean Boht died on September 12, 2024, at the age of 91. The cause of death was complications from Alzheimer's after years of decline. Her net worth was estimated at around £1.2 million, built from her work in television and stage acting, along with residuals from performance contracts. She left her estate to her daughter and charitable organizations, closing the life of a woman who left an indelible mark on British television. Stephen Pinder as Max Farnham. Stephen Pinder was born on March 30, 1960, in Lancashire. At just 30 years old, he took on the role of Max Farnham, one of the central male characters in Brookside, known for his secret affairs and shocking family scandals beginning in 1990. This role not only made Pinder a familiar face to audiences, but also placed his name among the leading actors of British television. Yet behind the glamour, his own marriage collapsed. In 1995, while still filming Brookside, Pinder divorced his first wife in bitterness. The split led to a 3-year custody battle, which he once described as his personal hell. Those years of embodying a character mired in drama while fighting the disintegration of his real-life family left him drained and under constant stress. It wasn't only marriage troubles that haunted him. Pinder also battled self-destructive habits. During the 1990s, he fell into gambling, losing several £1,000s and nearly wrecking his career in sleepless nights at the casino. Fortunately, he turned to a support group and managed to stop before everything collapsed. That period taught him the fragility of fame and made him value even more what he would later build. By 2025, Stephen Pinder is 65 years old and still active on stage, appearing in major productions such as Wicked, The Count of Monte Cristo, and television series including Casualty and EastEnders. He now lives in West London with his wife and 2 children, with an estimated net worth of about £2 million, built from his enduring acting career and shrewd real estate investments. Sheila O'Hara as Karen Grant. Sheila O'Hara was born on February 17, 1945, in Liverpool. She played Karen Grant, one of the original members of the Grant family, helping to shape the earliest episodes of Brookside, 1982, when she was 24 years old. Her character quickly became a symbol of youthful rebellion in the social climate of 1980s Britain and secured O'Hara's strong impression on audiences during her 5 years with the show until 1987. However, her life away from the cameras was turbulent. In 1990, O'Hara suffered a serious horse-riding accident, breaking multiple bones and forcing her to step away from acting for half a year. The long recovery drove her into depression, while her marriage also crumbled and ended in divorce. From then on, she gradually withdrew from the spotlight, finding solace in caring for her elderly parents and struggling through long stretches of loneliness. As if that weren't enough, fate dealt her another blow with a diagnosis of advanced breast cancer. O'Hara chose to keep her illness private so as not to worry her family, but the disease's toll was painfully clear in her final months. She endured the suffering quietly, declining acting offers to conserve what little strength remained. Sheila O'Hara died on June 4, 2021, at the age of 76. The cause was complications from breast cancer, closing the life of a woman who had once brought youthful vitality to Brookside's early days. Her net worth at the time of her passing was estimated at about £500,000, earned from her television career, teaching drama in Liverpool, and left behind to her son and theater education projects. Ricky Tomlinson as Bobby Grant. Ricky Tomlinson was born on September 26, 1939, in Liverpool. When he was 43 years old, he played Bobby Grant, the hard-working father and pillar of the Grant family, in Brookside, starting in 1982. The character became a symbol of the British working class on television, turning Tomlinson into a familiar face and paving the way for later successes in the royal family and British cinema. Yet Tomlinson's real life was far harsher. In 1973, before fame, he was sentenced to 2 years in prison for participating in the Shrewsbury strike, accused of conspiring to intimidate workers. He always insisted the sentence was an unjust political decision, and the case remained a lasting wound on his spirit for decades. His first marriage to Marlene also collapsed in 1986 after 24 years together, as his heavy drinking during the 1960s gradually eroded the family's foundation. It wasn't only emotional scars. Tomlinson also came close to death more than once. He suffered 2 heart attacks, one in 2000 and another in 2015, forcing him to change his lifestyle to survive. Those near-death experiences gave him a deeper appreciation of health and family happiness, things he had lost during his first marriage. By 2025, Ricky Tomlinson, now 86, remains active and occasionally appears in special programs, including Eurovision. He lives happily with his second wife, Rita, in Liverpool, where the two are seen as a simple, inseparable couple. Tomlinson's net worth is estimated at £18 million, built from his acting career, memoirs, and even personalized cameo videos. John Burgess as David Crosby. John Burgess was born on February 13, 1933, in London. At 59 years old, he played David Crosby in Brookside, a humorous character who brought lightness in between tense dramas, joining the show in 1992. Over 6 years until 1998, Burgess became a familiar face, delivering laughter and balance for audiences, helping the series maintain its enduring appeal. Off-screen, however, he often faced crises. In 1985, Burgess went bankrupt after a failed investment in a London restaurant, leaving him heavily in debt and forcing him to sell his house. At one point, he also fell into gambling, losing thousands of pounds in casinos, which caused years of anxiety and instability for his family before he managed to recover and regain control. But his final battle came from illness. In 2010, Burgess was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer at an advanced stage. Within just 6 months, his health declined rapidly, shocking family and colleagues who saw a man who had always brought laughter suddenly succumb in silence to such a cruel disease. John Burgess died on November 3, 2010, at the age of 77. The cause was pancreatic cancer, closing the life of a dedicated artist. At his death, his net worth was estimated at about £400,000, earned from his television work and advertisements, including a performance alongside Rowan Atkinson for Barclaycard. The money was left to his wife and daughter, serving as his final legacy after years of hardship and resilience. Michael Starke as Sinbad Sweeney. Michael Starke was born on November 3, 1956, in Liverpool. At just 27 years old, he played Sinbad Sweeney in Brookside in 1984, a witty, loyal character who brought laughter to balance the show's family tragedies. Appearing in more than 1,000 episodes until 2000, Sinbad became an enduring symbol of humor and friendship, earning Starke nationwide affection and solidifying his place in British television. But while his career was soaring, his marriage fell apart. In 1998, Starke divorced his wife after many years together, which led to a bitter property dispute. The family breakdown happened just as he was portraying Sinbad, the ever-loyal, warm-hearted man, making his private pain feel even heavier. He later admitted that this period left him mentally exhausted, full of doubt, and unable to focus on his work. Beyond marital collapse, Starke also struggled with unhealthy habits. He was a heavy smoker for many years, to the point that by 2010, he developed serious respiratory problems. Frequent bouts of breathlessness forced him to quit smoking entirely, a turning point that allowed him to stay on stage and preserve his voice, something he considered his greatest personal treasure. By 2025, Michael Starke is 68 and still keeps his artistic passion alive, performing in musicals like Hairspray, appearing in Casualty, and taking roles in various TV shows. He lives in Merseyside with his family, maintaining a steady career. His net worth is estimated at around £1.5 million, earned through a combination of television and stage work, a well-deserved reward for a resilient journey through crisis. Gabrielle Glaister as Patricia Farnham. Gabrielle Glaister was born on July 27, 1960, in Morton in Marsh. When she was 30 years old, she played Patricia Farnham, a woman surrounded by affairs and heartbreak, delivering many of the dramatic high points of Brookside in 1990. Over more than 700 episodes until 1997, the role of Patricia made Glaister one of the standout female faces of the series and reinforced her place in British television. But after leaving Brookside, Glaister faced a terrifying darkness. In 2000, she was diagnosed with severe depression, which led to hospitalization and forced her to take a 6-month break from her career. She later admitted that the period felt like a bottomless pit, where she had lost all direction and nearly all will to live, let alone to act. Though she survived that mental health crisis, loneliness has always followed her. After several relationships that never lasted, Glaister chose to remain single, facing the pressures and upheavals of her profession alone. Yet it was precisely this resilience that allowed her to return, taking on new roles in Family Affairs, Coronation Street, and later in Dark Money and The Dumping Ground. By 2025, Gabrielle Glaister is 64 years old, still steadily working as an actress while also writing scripts for smaller projects. She lives alone in Brighton, with an estimated net worth of about £1 million, built largely from her long television career and writing work. Though she once collapsed under depression, she rose again, becoming a testament to the strength of an artist who survived pain. Paul Usher as Barry Grant. Paul Usher was born on April 20, 1961, in Liverpool. At just 21 years old, he played Barry Grant, a notorious villain who gradually transformed into a hero, a character entangled in schemes, love affairs, and family tragedies in Brookside from its very beginning in 1982. Barry became one of the show's central figures, helping Usher rise to the ranks of British television stars and paving the way for major roles later in The Bill and Robin Hood. But Usher's personal life was filled with loss. In 2016, his son Jake died at the age of 20 after a brutal battle with brain cancer. The death tore apart the heart of the father, leading Usher to step away from his career for a year, drowning in grief. He established a charity fund in his son's name to raise money for cancer research, but the pain of losing a child never left him. Years earlier, in 2000, his first marriage collapsed, pushing him into a spiral of heavy drinking, and it took him many years to find balance again. By 2025, Paul Usher is 64 years old, living in London with his wife Charlotte and their son Lucas, still appearing in television projects such as EastEnders and working on podcasts. His net worth is estimated at £1.8 million, primarily from his long-lasting television career and charitable work tied to his name. Claire Sweeney as Lindsay Corkhill. Claire Sweeney was born on April 17, 1971, in Liverpool. When she was only 20 years old, she played Lindsay Corkhill in Brookside, a character tied to ill-fated love stories and criminal dramas, appearing in more than 900 episodes until 2003. Thanks to Lindsay, Sweeney became one of the most prominent female faces of the series, which opened the door for her to expand into singing, theater, and television shows. Yet her path was often shadowed by deep struggles. In 2009, Sweeney declared bankruptcy after a string of failed property investments, losing hundreds of thousands of pounds. The financial shock forced her to sell her house and led to months of depression and disorientation. Before that, she had been obsessed with her weight, undertaking extreme diets to lose 25 kilograms, but the cost was exhaustion and physical weakness. These emotional scars meant Sweeney had to rebuild herself from nothing more than once. Despite heartbreak and relentless public pressure, she endured. She has a son with her former partner Daniel Riley and was in a long-term relationship with businessman Billy Oakes. In 2024, her public romance with boxer Ricky Hatton drew media attention, only to collapse in the first half of 2025, leaving yet another cut in her turbulent love life. By 2025, Claire Sweeney is 54 years old and still shines in Coronation Street as Cassie Plummer, while also performing in entertainment programs and singing. Her net worth is estimated at around £3 million, earned from soap operas, music, and television, a testament to the enduring strength of an artist who never stopped coming back after every crisis. Anna Friel as Beth Jordache. Anna Friel was born on July 12, 1976, in Rochdale. When she was only 17 years old, she played Beth Jordache, a character forever linked to the first lesbian kiss on British television, a historic moment in Brookside in 1993 that changed public perception of LGBT representation. The role turned Friel into a rising young star and opened the door to an international career with major awards to come. But behind the glamour, Friel's private life was filled with pain. In 2001, she suffered a ruptured ovarian cyst, requiring emergency surgery and 2 blood transfusions. She was later diagnosed with endometriosis, a condition that made pregnancy extremely difficult. By 2005, she underwent IVF treatment to give birth to her daughter Gracie with actor David Thewlis. Their nearly decade-long relationship ended in 2011, leaving her with heartbreak but also an enduring friendship after the split. Just when it seemed she had overcome those struggles, another nightmare struck. From 2018 to 2021, Friel was harassed by a stalker named Phil Appleton, who followed her, left gifts at her doorstep, and appeared without warning. The ordeal left her living in fear, suffering from chronic insomnia until September 2022, when the court finally issued a 15-year restraining order against him. Friel admitted she felt threatened and shocked, and to this day, she has not fully recovered emotionally. By 2025, Anna Friel, now 49, continues to shine on screen. She has been nominated for a BAFTA for True Love and has proven her talent in Pushing Daisies and Marcella. She currently lives in London with her daughter, maintaining a strong career. Friel's net worth is estimated at around £4 million, drawn mostly from television and Hollywood films such as Limitless, along with advertising and stage work. Brian Regan as Terry Sullivan. Brian Regan was born on October 2, 1957, in Liverpool. He joined Brookside in 1986 at the age of 29, playing Terry Sullivan, and appeared in more than 600 episodes until 1997. Terry, a man entangled in scams and failed romances, became a defining part of the series, making Regan well known and beloved by audiences for more than a decade. In real life, however, Regan's path spiraled into tragedy. He developed a gambling habit, losing thousands of pounds in casinos, and that addiction pushed him toward legal troubles. In 2000, his first marriage ended in divorce, leaving him bitter and leading to a reckless lifestyle. Addiction and loneliness gradually distanced him from the safe image of a television actor. The most devastating turning point came in 2011, when he was implicated in a murder case in Aigburth, Liverpool. Regan admitted to being the driver who transported the gunman, though he insisted he had no prior knowledge of the killing. He also lied in court to conceal his role, which resulted in a prison sentence of 4 years and 10 months for assisting in murder and perverting the course of justice. In an instant, his career collapsed. All acting contracts were canceled, and his reputation was permanently destroyed. By 2025, Brian Regan is 68, living quietly in Liverpool, avoiding the public after his scandals, and occasionally taking on minor roles. His net worth is estimated at around £300,000, about 9.5 billion Vietnamese dong, mostly from his long years on Brookside and a few television roles before his career fell apart. With his criminal past, his life remains overshadowed by the darkness of wrong choices. After more than 40 years, the lives of the Brookside cast have been even more dramatic than what appeared on screen, marked by loss, illness, and remarkable comebacks. Who among them surprised you the most? Leave a comment below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more stories from behind the screen.